Ladies and gentlemen, gamblers and sports bettors all over the world, welcome back to Laying the Points with Farley Bets. Great to be here with you again as we proceed and we get closer to the NFL season. If you're not excited, I don't know what's wrong with you, because the NFL, man, fall is coming. I'm sick of these 95-degree days every single day here in the Northeast. It's exhausting. It's like stepping into a damn sauna. The fall is coming. Leaves are going to change color. We're going to hear the football sounds, turf grass. We're going to smell that grass as we walk outside of our doors, hopefully. The right kind of grass. But, man, I can't wait. I can't wait for the fall. I can't wait for the actual NFL season. College football, of course, is starting this week. Maybe we can get to our thoughts on some of those games. But all that I can promise is that the NFC East and AFC East previews, divisional previews, as we tackle every one of them, are going to be the main focus of this podcast. We already covered the AFC and NFC North and the AFC and NFC West. Next week we'll do we'll finish with the AFC and NFC North, and I can't wait to talk about that. A lot of interesting teams in those divisions. And today I have the all too familiar NFC East. As a Giants fan, I'll get into that more, and also covering the always controversial AFC East with Billy B and the Patriots, the ascending Bills, the always transforming New York Jets, and of course those sneaky little Miami Dolphins down there in Florida who just seem to be improving and improving. Before I get to any of that, please follow us at The Odds Breakers on Twitter. Go to our website, theoddsbreakers.com. A bunch of great writers there at The Odds Breakers for free picks and premium picks giving away. We have Nick Hub Sports. We have Gator Betting. That's Patrick. We have OB Kiev, the Odds Breaker himself. The legendary Kyle Hunter will be contributing to the site. So check out everything that's going on at theoddsbreakers.com. We got free picks. We have premium picks. And of course, follow me at Farley Bets on Instagram and on Twitter. My Twitter handle is actually at ChrisRFarley1. But there's good reason to follow us. We are all on a heater in some way. I am 32-13 the last 3 weeks in baseball. That is 71%. Definitely my best 3-week span in MLB, and it doesn't seem to be stopping. I am 10-0 in the last 4 days. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we know that that's not easy to do. It's not easy to do in baseball for sure. High volatility, just a lot of surprise things happen when the best pitchers are on the mound and they just get whacked. But we're cruising right now. It's going to end, right? Negative regression comes for all of us. It can't continue. I'm not going to be undefeated forever. But Nick Hub is doing fantastic. Gator Betting is killing it in golf and racing, horse racing. Just a lot of great contributors to the site. And if you want to enter any of the big NFL contests this year, the Super Contest, Circa Million, etc., check out @FootballContest on Twitter. And that is the proxy that we use. They are smooth. It's an easy operation. You have to register in Vegas, of course, if you didn't know that. But they will take care of your picks every single week and get you into those huge contests where you can win a ton of money. I think for the Circa Million, it's at least $1 million guaranteed to first place, and then a bunch of other prizes beneath that. I'm entered this year with my buddy Steve. We're going to be talking about that throughout the season, and that is the proxy we use. So please check out @FootballContest on Twitter if you're interested or need a proxy in Vegas for those big contests. And with that, let's get this podcast started. I want to wrap this thing up in a nice, tight 30-minute window if I can. Easier said than done, as we've seen from my previous podcast. But I really want to try to get a short one in today. A lot going on, a lot of prep for the football season. Still marching on with baseball, so let's get rolling. A few things to note about the preseason. First of all, if you ask me, this is just a bad preseason. They got rid of 1 week. That's fine. I mean, that's better. Nobody wants 4 weeks of preseason. We don't need that anymore. But I think the result of that, as these coaches have smartened up, is a lot of the coaches don't care much about the preseason. You know, they're trying out those second, third, fourth stringers, but it's not very entertaining. It doesn't really tell us much about how these teams are going to be in the regular season. Even some of these young quarterbacks that are doing well, you know, props to Mac Jones, props to Zach Wilson, props to a lot of these guys, Trey Lance, but just another friendly reminder, to just not take the preseason too seriously. The trick is to be able to observe and take with you some of the things in the preseason that will matter and be able to discard most of what you see in the preseason. Because week one, Patrick Mahomes is not going to be making the same mistakes. Defenses are going to be playing much faster, much better. Offenses are going to be scheming much better, much sharper, right? These coaches aren't showing much of their cards, nor should they. And it has avoided a lot of the big injuries that we usually see, but it's not making for great preseason content. Some other things to note. Is Cam Newton done? I don't know. Right? It doesn't look very good right now. Mac Jones may very well be the better option. In general, I think it's not wise for these coaches to start a first-year quarterback, a rookie quarterback. It makes sense if they have a capable quarterback to sit behind them to watch. The regular season is going to be different. Is Cam Newton done? I don't know. I respect Cam. I think he's been through a lot in his career. He's been beaten up a lot. Never been a great thrower. Mac Jones may be the better option there, but we can't really know that until the season starts. Are the Eagles better than we expect? Maybe. I'll talk more about the NFC East, but that is a wide open division. Devonta Smith looks like a real playmaker. He's a sharp route runner. Jalen Reagor, is a first-round pick. He could really ascend this year. They have some weapons. Jalen Hurts' arm looks good. They have a very solid front seven on defense. Maybe we don't count out the Eagles like we thought we should at the start of the year as like an experimental year for them. If Nick Sirianni is capable at all, could be a team that catches some other teams this year. The Eagles are always feisty in that way. Only last year did I really see their collapse over the last decade, really. Always a hard-nosed, blue-collar team, and I would not be surprised if they outright won the NFC East. The two defenses I'm really concerned about, the Seahawks and the Cowboys. Jamal Adams and that big contract feels like a desperation move from the Seahawks front management. The guy can't cover. He can't cover fast wide receivers. Hell, he can't cover fast tight ends. Great blitzer. Unbelievable rusher of the quarterback and great against the run. Is he worth that kind of money if he can't cover? I don't know, man. I think the Seattle defense has some real problems. The Dallas defense has also shown me nothing to believe in them, like at all. I think they're going to really, really struggle this year. Could their offense just keep them in games and ultimately they still win the NFC East because of an explosive offense? Sure. But against increasingly capable offenses of the NFC East and just in the NFL in general with the aerial attacks, that's going to be really, really tough to manage. And finally, some recent news. Jameis Winston named the starting quarterback for the Saints. Let me tell you, that might be a car wreck, train wreck. Might work, might be very successful actually. He could be a very dangerous long ball thrower, and I mean that dangerous for the defenses. He could be dangerous to his own offense too at times. But that is going to be an entertaining thing to watch. What a show down in New Orleans with Sean Payton running an offense. Sean Payton running those brilliant, West Coast short passing schemes, and then Jameis with the ability to really take it over the top in those long balls downfield, those streaky routes that the Saints weren't able to have in the past with Drew Brees' limited arm. So it's going to be really interesting. Jameis is just an interesting character. He had some disciplinary issues, obviously, in the past at Florida State. He's not a great decision maker. Just in his young career, between the interceptions that he threw, 30 picks that one year. But with all that bad decision making in the past, if the guy has matured and grown, he had to sit down like a little puppy and watch Big Drew and do his thing last year, which was probably really good for Jameis. Drew seems like a great leader, just a great dude. He seemed to like Jameis. So if we see a Jameis 2.0, more mature, more focused, better decision making, he certainly has a lot more physical talent than an old Drew Brees and then Taysom Hill does as a pure quarterback. Jameis has a big arm, he can scramble, and with Sean Payton at the helm, again, that team has lost a lot on defense, but if they can keep their defense afloat, still a dangerous team. with Sean Payton. Still very dangerous. So that'll be interesting and entertaining to watch. Of course, there's all kinds of NFL news always just spewing out. We'll have more time to cover that stuff later. But for now, let's get to the NFC East and AFC East previews. All right, let's get to the NFC East. And what you need to understand about me and the NFC East is I was born in northern Jersey into a New York Giants family. I mean, literally the first words out of my mouth were probably Giants or New York or G-Men or Go Giants. It was a religion for us. And then for some reason, my family, I know some reasons. There were some mafia ties apparently with my dad, but we won't tell those stories in this podcast. But they moved to Eastern Pennsylvania for some reason when I was like 3, 4, 5. I don't know how old I was. But I grew up around Eagles fans during the Donovan McNabb era. So I would just get tortured as the Eagles just scorched the Giants every single year, going to the Super Bowl. Of course, they never won then, but the Eagles were really good in those Andy Reid years. And I had to grow up middle school, high school, watching that shit. But the point is, the NFC East is close to home for me. I pay attention to them just naturally more than other NFL divisions. It's just an obvious thing that happens from growing up as a fan. So I'm going to attack the NFC East a little bit differently. We're going to talk about the NFC East as a total package because the reality is none of these teams in the NFC East are Super Bowl contenders. Okay? I would love it if the Giants just ascended and became a Super Bowl contender this year. Of course. I mean, I would be so amped, but it's probably not going to happen. Okay? Every one of these units has parts, elements to their team that are really limiting. Now, you can make a case that the Washington football team has a Super Bowl defense. That could be true. I mean, this could be a world-class defense with their front seven. You could also make a case that the Dallas Cowboys have a world-class offense, or at least potential to be a Super Bowl offense. The problem is, with all these teams in the NFC East, is they have so much growth areas and so much that they have to work on. I mean, the Cowboys, I have no reason to believe that the Cowboys are going to be any better on defense. I have no reason to believe that Mike McCarthy is a good coach. I think we're learning more and more from watching Hard Knocks, from watching the way that McCarthy coaches these games and his old school bro mentality, that he's probably not equipped to coach the Cowboys, nor is he equipped to really coach any NFL team. He had that winning record, that winning season, that Super Bowl win with the Packers. But it's just more obvious to everyone now that McCarthy was benefiting from Aaron Rodgers in his prime and just a lot of other factors. He basically just stayed out of the way. But the Cowboys are in need of growth. They're in need of evolution. Their players are giving a lot of power. They're always in the spotlight. The cameras are on, which can't be great for a growing team, right? For a team that needs to mature and develop. And then the Washington football team, for how great their defense is, we are riding on the notion that Ryan Fitzpatrick, at the tail end of his career, after being a journeyman and a fan favorite for sure, what a beard, funny guy, electric. He can put up some electric performances. 5, 6 touchdowns, 400 yards, but he's not consistent. He's not consistent enough. He's going to have games this year where he just totally shits the bed, and then we're going to be thinking, maybe, Taylor Heineke, wow, is the Washington football team going to bring in another quarterback? I mean, that's probably going to happen at some point. That's what happens with Ryan Fitzpatrick and with every team. And as much as the Washington football team's defense is elite for sure, especially that front seven. The great offensive teams are going to face Washington, and they're going to figure out a way. And then it's going to be on Ryan Fitzpatrick's shoulders in high pressure scenarios throughout the game to deliver. And he may sometimes, but he's also not going to some other times, and we know that from the historical past. So. And then the Giants and the Eagles. The Giants are still an evolving, developing team. I like a lot about what they did on defense last year. I like their second round draft pick this year out of Georgia. It looks like he could be a sack machine. Saquon Barkley coming back is promising. They have a lot of talent on offense. Where they do not have a lot of talent is their offensive line, which is probably the spot where you need to have a lot of talent if you're going to win. And they're unproven, somewhat untested, the way that it's configured this year. And I mean, like every Giants fan has echoed, what would Saquon Barkley be like if he had big holes, if he had a great offensive line, if he had Tennessee's offensive line, if he had Tampa Bay's offensive line, Cleveland's offensive line? What would Saquon Barkley be like? Why don't the Giants overinvest in that first? I don't know. But we have a ton of talent on the outside, not a lot of talent on the interior. And Joe Judge believes in them. Apparently the offensive stars believe in them. But we'll see come the regular season, week 1 against the Broncos and a much healthier, much feistier front seven is ready to go for Denver. I hope I don't see Daniel Jones getting sacked, fumbling the ball, Saquon getting hit 3 yards behind the line, because that's what happens a lot in Giants games, and it's frustrating. Now, their defense is improving, and I like what they did on defense last year. They were 12th in yards allowed per game last year, 11th in rush yards allowed, 9th in points allowed, 6-2 ATS on the road last year. They're a tough group, and if they can get a consistent pass rush, hey, the Giants' defense could really cause some problems for good offenses. But again, the offensive line, and not just the offensive line for the Giants, but the way that what we all feared as Giants fans, the way that Jason Garrett calls that offense, just running the ball way too much and running the ball way too often on first down, which doesn't work. It's proven not to work in the NFL. Pass the ball on first down, keep the defense on their heels, but the Giants like to stack the box, on offense, put extra tight ends, fullback in there, whatever, and then the other defenses are like, oh well, they're going to run the ball, and guess what? Most of the time they're right. The Giants just run it right up their throat, and it just doesn't make any sense. As far as the Eagles go, I spoke about it a little bit at the start of this podcast, but the Eagles have a ton of potential. They always do. And if Jalen Hurts has the kind of arm that can be accurate on a consistent basis, and then he can run the ball and add that element to the Eagles' offense, they have weapons. They still have a lot of weapons. I mean, Goddard at tight end with Ertz. If Rager picks it up a little bit more, Devonta Smith is going to open up gaps, that's for sure. He's going to get separation. No doubt about that. He's as fast or faster than any player in the NFL. I mean, he's up there. And then the Eagles' front seven is still pretty damn solid. Along with Devonta Smith, they drafted a center from Alabama, which could be a good addition to an offensive line that needs more depth. Got some players on defense. We'll see what they can do. So don't look out for the Eagles. Like I said at the start of this podcast, the NFC East is wide open, and I do think that the team who wins the NFC East this year is going to have a record above 500. I don't think an NFC East team can win this division going what? What's the record? 8-9. I think you have to be at least 9-8, and that means for the Cowboys, I'm seeing their futures are at 9. I love an underplay in the Cowboys at 9. Love it. That defense is going to blow a lot of games for them. Dak with the injury concerns. I mean, those are serious injury concerns with the shoulder, elbow, the strains. Say what you will about their backups that we see on Hard Knocks, but I don't trust them to hold up the offense. Zeke had a bad year last year. It could be better this year, but this is not a running league, right? Dak needs to stay healthy, and the defense needs to step up, and I just don't trust it. I love under 9 for the Cowboys. The Eagles and Giants are interesting in their futures. Eagles at 6.5, Giants at 7. You can take them to win the NFC East, and that might be a better bet, plus 400 and above. I think it's plus 5 or plus 6 for the Eagles. And then the Washington football team, they're sitting at 8.5 wins on the season at Bet Online. I think that's about right. That's about right where it needs to be, about that 500 mark. Is the Washington football team good enough with Fitzpatrick and that defense to win more than half their games? I think so. So that puts the football team as my favorite to win the NFC East. I don't like that. It makes my skin crawl, quite frankly. There's a lot of fantastic Washington fans out there, but living in this area, living in Baltimore now, oh my God, these football team fans can be so annoying. They win 2 games. Watch, if they go 2-0, the whole fan base is going to think they're going to win the Super Bowl. It's going to be painful. And of course, I'm saying that lightly about you Washington fans out there. As a Giants fan, you got to expect that, right? You got to expect some heat from me. But for what it's worth, I do think that they should be considered the favorite to win. I'm going to put a very small play on the Giants to win because I'm a fan, but also I think that's great value at plus 400. You can find it above plus 400 at some spots. This is a wide open division, but my favorite future play is in the Cowboys under 9. It used to be 9.5. Now it's moving down. Under 9 on the Cowboys, under 9 on them boys for me. A sub 500 year, and maybe we see the end of a big old Mike McCarthy, which should probably, if you're Jerry Jones, if you're smart, you're getting old, Jerry. You're crying about the Super Bowl. I get it. You want to win, then get rid of Big Mike. All right, it's AFC East time, and we got to talk about the Bills, the Patriots, the Dolphins, the Jets. And the big question that I have is, are the Dolphins and the Patriots going to really be competitive this year? Because the Bills, the one thing that that we all probably witnessed last year is, of course, the proficiency of that Bills offense. Explosive. Josh Allen can toss it anywhere around the field. He's continuously improving. Stephon Diggs, what a mark in his first year with the Bills. But one thing that we don't consider is that the Bills' defense couldn't really stop anybody. The Bills' defense took a step down. The Bills' defense wasn't what we're used to, right? From the previous years, the blue-collar Bills, they always had a great defense and not always a great offense. So if we see some improvement from that Bills defense this year, that's something to be a little scared of. If I'm another team in the AFC East or even in the AFC, and the Bills defense vastly improves, they're getting to the quarterback, their secondary plays well, in addition to all they can do on offense under Josh Allen, who's probably, his trajectory has gone significantly, exponentially up every year. Could be a scary team. Bill Belichick, revenge year perhaps, had to watch his boy Tom win a Super Bowl while the Patriots went home, didn't even make the playoffs. A lot of players coming back on defense for them this year, but they have issues on offense, to say the least. They're weak at wide receiver, and Mac Jones, man. Is Cam Newton done? Is Mac Jones going to step up? How about the Dolphins? How about those sneaky little Dolphins down there in Miami? What a well-coached team. It's obvious. Defense, special teams. They make the most out of their players. But again, the quarterback problem. Tua. Is Tua the answer? Hasn't looked that great in the preseason. Was not a Tua guy last year. Admitted that he wasn't really trying to learn the playbook. Wasn't studying it as much as he should have. It's not great, Tua. And then you got the Jets, who are full of some young talent. Zach Wilson is slinging it in the preseason. How much can we take away from that? I don't know. Probably a little bit, right? He looks better than most young quarterbacks in the preseason. He's still playing football. But things are going to change when he has to go against these defenses of the AFC East, defenses in the AFC in general. And it's going to be interesting. AFC East kind of up in the air too, I think. But let's break down some of these teams, and we'll start with the AFC East champion from last year in the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills, they've made some interesting acquisitions in the offseason. Emmanuel Sanders, Mitchell Trubisky. Why am I adding an N in there? Trubisky. Mitch doing his best Josh Allen impression in the preseason. Pretty good spot for him to land if he's going to land anywhere, right? They love a big arm in Buffalo. Emmanuel Sanders could be a great acquisition. Number 2 wide receiver there with Stephon Diggs. Like that addition a lot, especially since they got rid of Andre Roberts and John Brown in the offseason. And then they brought in some defensive prowess, drafting Gregory Rousseau from Miami, defensive end, and defensive end Carlos Basham Jr. from Wake Forest. We'll see what they can do, but if they can get some pressure, if they can compete to be in the starting lineup and get some pressure for that Bills team, could be a really key difference for them. The Bills are favored in 15 games this year, and their expected win total is 11. That's tough to choose a side with that one because 11 games is still a lot, even in a 17-game season. And the AFC East is bound to be a little more difficult than usual. Their schedule is about the same level of difficulty this year. But I'm not sure which side to fall on that. I mean, I lean to the over because I think the Bills are going to maintain success. I mean, they really didn't lose anybody that was integral to their success last year. And Josh Allen under Sean McDermott and maybe an improving Bills defense with a lot of young players and a lot of talent. You know, you gotta suspect that they're at least going to maintain where they're at. So I lean the over 11 wins, but I can't take it right now. It's a pretty sharp total where it sits. Some interesting things to note from last season. Josh Allen made such a gigantic leap on deep throws, went from only a 30.9% adjusted completion percentage on 20-plus yard throws in 2019 all the way up to 47.2% last season. So the question is that the new normal for Josh Norman, or was last year just a very special moment in time where everything came together for the Bills? The Bills also went 5-1 in one-score games last year, which I think is always just such a great sign for the future. You know, having a quarterback that's clutch, having a team that knows how to win in the hardest moments of the game. We've seen that for years on end with teams like Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers, Drew Brees and the Saints, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. These are winning teams year in and year out who know how to win the close games. And the Bills have been a really good ATS team as well. There's something to note. Over 60% ATS in 3 out of the 4 seasons that Sean McDermott has coached the Bills, 57.6% overall. That's damn good. You know, they're a great team to bet on. And, of course, in Week 1, we see that line's right around 7 against the Steelers at Pittsburgh. I don't know about that one. I might be siding with the Steelers. Just a little look ahead there. It's a tough place to play. Tough place to cover that line. But, you know, the Bills have the talent. And one thing that's separating them from a lot of teams is just like the Bucs, everyone they need is coming back. They stayed healthy last year. They got all the same players, all the same skill players and tools. Why would I not believe that the Bills are going to finish first again in the AFC East? We'll see, but let's talk more about some of these other teams. And how about those feisty little New England Patriots led by Bill Belichick? And I believe that Billy B is pretty pissed after last year. Yes, last year was kind of a throwaway season. You know, Cam Newton at quarterback, a lot of players sat out, especially on defense, chose to opt out because of COVID. So this is going to be a new year, maybe some new beginnings for Billy B and the Pats, and that starts with Mac Jones. As good as Bill Belichick is at scheming on defense and as many players as he has and all the talent that they have on defense, if they don't have security at the quarterback position, if Mac Jones doesn't add up to what his preseason grades tell us, which, like I said, gotta take that with a grain of salt. I mean, Josh Rosen looked okay in his 2018 preseason, 55% throwing, no interceptions. I mean, he didn't look good, but he didn't look like shit. And Mac Jones looks pretty good, right? He's getting a lot of high grades. He got an A from Pro Football Focus, I believe. But the regular season is a different deal. And if the Patriots don't figure out how to produce more downfield offense, more of a passing offense, one of the worst teams in the league last year in that category, this is going to be another unsuccessful year for the Patriots. But they did make some key acquisitions in the offseason, also let some key players go. Joe Thuney, left guard, gone to the Chiefs. Damiere Byrd and Dante Moncrief, gone, wide receiver depth. Out the window, J.C. Jackson, retired. Jason McCourty, cornerback for a long time, gone to the Dolphins. But they did add some real talent. Matt Judon, who we thought might have had a serious injury in the preseason. Edge rusher, great edge rusher from Baltimore. Young guy, could add, could be a real threat in addition to a Patriots front seven that's already pretty solid. Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, 2 tight ends they added, and apparently Jonnu Smith is making waves. Patriots love to run those 2 tight end sets, and we all know Bill Belichick loves him some tight ends. So great depth there at tight end. And more good news for the Patriots is that their ease of schedule this year, as far as for their offense goes, is considerably better than last year. I mean, they're facing a bunch of defenses that aren't very good. You got the Cowboys on the schedule. You got the AFC South, NFC South on the schedule. Of course, you got the Bucs, and the Saints could be difficult, and the Panthers could be better on defense. Forget the Falcons, but the Patriots' offense should have much easier slate this year for their offense to work. So that's a positive buy sign. The negative in that is that New England has got really screwed with their schedule this year. They will have the worst net rest differential in the NFL at minus 15 games. That's rough. They lead the NFL in playing 3 opponents coming off their bye week. So it's not setting things up well there for Bill Belichick and his team. But that being said, I kind of want to go with the over. Over 9 wins this year for the Patriots, and here's why. Last season, no team, as I mentioned, was more hurt by opt-outs than the Patriots. Let's see. They had 8 total opt-outs. That's the most in the NFL. Expected starters like Marcus Cannon, Matt LaCossa, Dante Hightower, Patrick Chung. So with the influx of some of the new talent that they brought in, Kyle Van Noy, free agent acquisition, David Gacciao? God, I don't know how to say half these names. And second-round pick Christian Barmore at DT. Bill Belichick was able to get the Patriots to win 7 games last year, despite all the shit they went through. And, who's to say at 9, with a healthier roster, a defense that should be better, especially against the run. They suffered big time last year in that category. If, again, big if, that's why I can't make the bet, but if they get some consistency at quarterback, the Patriots can be a team to really contend in the AFC East. Are they going to dethrone the Bills? I don't think so. I think the Bills will stack up wins against many of the same teams that the Patriots have to face. But, you go to Gillette Stadium against Bill Belichick, revenge year for him, redemption year for him after all those injuries and everything they went through with COVID. And the Patriots can surely get some wins that people don't expect and get at least close to that 9 number. To me, that's a lot of respect, though. It's a lot of respect from the books that they're putting the Patriots at 9 for their futures total. Because there's just not a lot of depth on offense, and there's not certainty at the quarterback position. Cam Newton looks terrible. He looks bad, right? And he's obviously on the tail end of his career, but at least the athleticism, the big arm has always been there. That seems to be fading too. So not a good sign for the Patriots. And if they have to rely on Mac Jones, maybe Mac Jones is the man. Maybe he's going to make everybody pay for not taking him at a higher pick out of Alabama. But, historically, these Alabama quarterbacks, some of my buddies are going to hate that I'm saying this, but they don't do too well in the NFL, as we know, because they go from a system where they're just clobbering teams to the NFL where everybody's a pro, everybody's fast, nothing's going to be given to you, and Mac is going to have to make things happen, him and that soft little body of his. So I don't know about the Patriots. It's a sit back and watch thing for me, and it's going to be very interesting to see when Tom Brady comes to Gillette Stadium in the beginning of the season, and when that whole exchange happens. But I can certainly see the Patriots getting to 9 wins or getting close to it. So I can't take either side here. It's going to be interesting to watch in the AFC East. And let's just move on to the Miami Dolphins. The thing about the Dolphins is last year they benefited from a ton of turnovers that they caused. That's, part of that is luck, right? The ball's kind of squeezed out or pops out. But they did force the most turnovers in the NFL last year, recovered opponent fumbles at the 3rd highest percentage in the league, and ranked number 1 by a mile in the lowest third down conversion over expected rate in the NFL. The Dolphins' defense is legit, no doubt about it. Their secondary is fierce. But can we expect that many turnovers again this year? Probably not, right? Probably going to be some regression there. And the Dolphins are, I think, in an even more difficult AFC East, with the Jets possibly having a capable quarterback, the Patriots, looking to arm up and be better this year, even after getting 7 wins last year in a challenging year, and the Bills not showing any signs of slowing down either. Last year, Dolphins went 10-6, nearly made the playoffs. Obviously, big hopes for this year. But the issue is, the kind of obvious issue for me, is that their season rests on the shoulders of Tua. To come up big in big game situations, there's going to be a lot of close games in the AFC East. You could just feel that. And, Jacoby Brissett is the number 2 quarterback in Miami right now. Probably could step in and do some damage. Probably could do well. But Jacoby Brissett, historically, is somebody who, he's a game manager. He's tough, but not an elite passer. Not somebody who can, lead a team to true exceptional success. He's a pretty good fit with the Colts, pretty good fit with the Patriots, but nothing really jumps off the charts for Jacoby Brissett. So the Dolphins are kind of trapped in the Tua test, if you will, and I don't trust him. Will Fuller comes to the Dolphins this year, which you would think is a good pickup. I mean, he's a great deep threat, had some great moments with the Texans, but Fuller is injury prone. They have a good running back in Myles Gaskin, who was very productive last year, could take on a bigger role this year. But just some instability on offense. I like their pick of Jalen Waddle, obviously, from Alabama, first-round pick. How can you not like Jalen Waddle? Picked up some good players on defense, too. I mean, the Dolphins have a lot of depth. They have great leadership. They have playmakers on defense. They have some playmakers on offense now. But they have insecurity at quarterback. And it's the same problem that the Washington football team has. It's the same problem that the Patriots have. Just uncertainty at quarterback. And even though I'm a huge fan of Brian Flores, I think he's a great coach. I think he's a top 10 coach in the NFL right now. The way that he's turned minimal talent into a really good football team, the way that they've added depth, the way that they fight for their coach, how hard they play on defense. I mean, Flores is the real deal. That being said, you need a quarterback in this league. It's a throwing league. It's not getting any easier in that way. Secondaries are improving as well. Patriots secondary should be considerably better than last year. The Bills secondary is still very solid. And I have to go under. Under 9 for the Dolphins for me this year. I think they'd be lucky to be over 500. This is a slightly tougher schedule according to last year's strength of schedule. And a little bit easier in some ways for their offense, but their defense is going to be tried and challenged a little more. And I have to lean to the under for the Dolphins. I'll probably make a small play on this. Not a big play, just because I'm a fan of the way they do things in Miami. But I think Tua is a problem. I don't think he's an elite quarterback. I don't think he has staying power. It reminds me a lot of Marcus Mariota, right? Like size, passing ability, maybe limited toughness. I mean, the kid seems tough. He seems like a great kid. It's a kid you want to root for. But not everybody's a pro athlete, right? We learned that about Tim Tebow. There's some intangibles. There's some pure talent that you need to be successful at quarterback in the NFL. And I just don't know if Tua got it. And so far, he showed a lot of signs that he does not. So under 9 for me on the Dolphins. And lastly, we'll move through this last team quickly since we're going on 40 minutes here. But the New York Football Jets, the other side of New York, the underdog, Joe Namath, eh? I would love to see the Jets succeed. As a Giants fan, I'm not like a Jets hater, right? There's no rivalry between the Jets and the Giants. Some people attest to that. I don't know what they're attesting to because there's not a rivalry. AFC East, NFC East, what is it, like a preseason rivalry? Like a four-year rivalry? I would love to see the Jets and Giants in the Super Bowl someday. Probably a long time from that happening. But the Jets have some things to get excited about. Zach Wilson has looked good. Again, it's the preseason. So let's calm down. But he does look good. Looks better than Josh Rosen. Josh Rosen looked in the preseason a few years ago, right? I mean, hey, it's positive, right? It doesn't seem to suck immediately. Has some scrambling ability, has some mobility out there. Seems like a tough kid. Seems like a smart kid. Knows how to read defense. Makes quick decisions out there so far. So these are all good outlooks for Zach Wilson. That left side of the line looks to be even better. They have Mekhi Becton over there. And they picked up rookie USC offensive lineman Elijah Vera Tucker, who was dominant as a lineman with the Trojans. So the Jets could have a really solid left side of their offensive line. That's a real positive. They have plenty of weapons on offense, plenty of weapons at wide receiver, and Denzel Mims and Corey Davis, Keelan Cole, Elijah Moore. The bad news is, as far as we know, and you're going to hear a little click here, the Jets have just a pretty shallow roster overall, just according to what we've seen and according to what we know. Warren Sharp rates their positional unit rankings like this. Quarterbacks, 29th. Okay, we don't really know about that because of Zach Wilson, right? Could be better. But offensive line, 24th. Running backs, 32nd. Ooh, yeah, they're suffering there. Receivers, 29th. I don't know if that's all the way true. They got some weapons, like I just noted. Front seven on defense, 21st. Secondary, 31st. Very shallow. And head coach, 27th. Well, Robert Saleh, first year. I like the guy. Seems like a culture guy. He gets amped up in the sideline, players coach, but also has that tough mentality. Seems to be sharp. So there's a lot to like about Robert Saleh. There's a lot to like about the Jets' trajectory, perhaps, in the future. But this year, 6.5 wins, you can't go over that. You can't bet on the Jets getting 7 wins this year, getting close to 500 in the AFC East. I also don't want to go under it because they could surprise a few teams this year. AFC East schedule isn't that rough. So the Jets, like a lot of these bottom feeder teams like the Texans, etc., I'm not going to spend too much time on them, but I'm hopeful that at least the Jets will be a more interesting team to watch, more entertaining. So we'll see what the Jets do this year. Not going to take a side on that. But the AFC East, just like the NFC East, going to be interesting. I think it's more predictable. The Bills are probably going to win this one again. But look out for the Patriots. Look out for the Dolphins if Tua is better than we think. Otherwise, I think they're going to struggle this year. And Jets, at least they have some building blocks now in their offensive line, at quarterback, some talent on offense, some talent on defense too. So for all those decades-long underdog Jet fans, maybe you're starting to come out the other end here. All right, folks, that's about as tight as I can wrap this podcast. We're at about 43 minutes. So I'm going to wrap this baby up. Looking forward to the AFC and NFC North previews next week, because that means that we are 1 week closer and only about a week away from the opening game, Cowboys and Bucks, which I actually already have some thoughts on. So maybe I'll cover that next week. No preseason games to talk about here in the pod to end it. I put out a free play preseason picks for this weekend. The Colts hit -2 for the Friday games. Got a few other plays on there. Check them out if you can. Check out my free picks at the Odds Breakers every single day, either on Twitter or in an article at the Odds Breakers. Look into my premium picks. They're hitting. My free picks, 11-0 in MLB this week. That's insane, people. That doesn't happen if you're a bad capper. I don't like to toot my own horn. It's just true. It's just true. Check me out. Check out the Odds Breakers and the writers at the Odds Breakers. And we'll see you next week for the AFC North and NFC North preview.